G'day, it's Chris. This is Flat Tank Journey. Welcome back to the shed. What do you think? It's got tyres. It's actually been a bit of a long drawn out process. It's a hot day in the shed, so the aircon's running and I'm keeping cool. I'm just buttoning up, putting the front guard back on, or tightening up the stand. The stand should have a different mechanism down here for using the stand more effectively, but I didn't bother. I put the stand on it because I had one, and now I'm just tightening it back up because I don't really need it anymore. Now, that's it. It's a bit dusty because it's been sitting down in the corner and I've been turning a bit of wood. Come and have a look at these tyres, and then we'll push on and do something else. So these are 19 by 250s. They were a bit hard to get. My local motorcycle store got them in for me, and I'm super pleased that they did. You know, he said there wasn't that many choices. So these are a Mitas, M-I-T-A-S, and they fit really, really well. You can see the gap fill up in the guard. I've got to put the front stays back on, but they've sent it up in the guard nice, and they fill the back up better than I expected. They sit quite close down here where this tuck in for the frame is, closer than I'd like it to be. I don't want to have to alter that guard. Nothing rubs at this point. Fills up the guard pretty well for such big guards. To the best of my knowledge, it had 250s on it. The 250s look weird with the 4 and a bit inch guards, but it is what it is. I hope that's just dirt, but it looks to have a flaw in the paint. That could be the guard that needs repainted. Nonetheless, the tyres look super and I'm really happy. So there's the BSA. Can't go any further. All the nickel plating is still at the nickel platers, and it's been there about a month. I'm hoping to get it back soon. He thought it would be 4, 5, 6 weeks, and it's been 4 or 5 weeks so far. So I hope to get that back soon. Where's the engine? Still at the engine builders. Actually called in there today, but he was away, so that's a bit of a shame. I believe the engine is all but done, and the magneto rewound and repaired, so, you know, we're getting pretty close. The box, well, I've had the cover off this box. I need to get the cover off again, make a gasket, check all that out and lubricate that, but I'm pretty optimistic about that. The clutch I feel good about, and I need to do the primary cover on the other side. But let's get that off the lift and look at something else. Here's a little Velo, and that's what I really wanted to get into. The tyres have gone on the BSA, and that's really cool, and the nickel plating will arrive, and that'll be cool too. I'm sorry I didn't get to a video last week. Lots of stuff going on in my family and that I needed to deal with, and lots of stuff to do. So bikes are great. You can always throw a sheet over them and come back to them. The little Velocette has made a trip back here to the main workshop for me to get into. And what I wanted to look at was mainly footboards, because it would have had them. Now, it had quite interesting looking footboards that I just don't have and I can't find, and I'm going to improvise because that's what I do. Have a look at what I have got and what I'm thinking. So this is what I do have, and you all remember that. These came off the Rally when I replaced them with Rally footboards. And I want to put them in here because that's about where they'd go. Come and have a look, because I've done a bit of preparatory work and I'll tell you what I'm thinking about. Here's where I want to mount the footrests. The front is pretty simple. That's a lug on the frame, and I made a 1/2 inch stud out of some 1/2 inch shaft and cut threads on it and put new nuts on. Because I bought a nut kit from Classic Fasteners in South Australia of cycle thread nuts. So that was all nice and easy, and they arrived and they look good. Down the back, not quite so simple. There's 2 holes in a lug in the frame and a square. And there's 2 holes in a lug in the motor. Now, over the last couple of weeks, I made 4 3/8 studs, and like I always do, I put hardware on them and stuck them in the frame, and I've got one sitting on the bench from the engine. I imagine there's actually a gap between the engine and the frame, or they'd vibrate horribly. It all relates to how high up you pull the engine, where it clips to the frame. But the higher up you go, the harder it is to get the spark plug in and out. And you get a difference in the angle of the motor. So I need to sort that out, but I don't know how. I imagine a plate going over all those 4 holes and the footrest mounting somewhere down here. But I don't know that for a fact. So I'm going to start with the front and hope for the best. My idea currently is a piece of 1/2 inch plate that I can tilt around. I've put the 1/2 inch hole in the top left hand corner, and I'm going to put the 7/16, actually no, it's 9/16 hole for the mounting bar off the footrest in the front right hand corner, and then that'll let me cut a little shape to it so it's not just a giant chunk of steel sitting there. For now I thought I'd try and get the height of the footrests where I want them to be. Bit of a wing it and hope for the best here. If you don't enjoy the thought process and what I think, maybe this bit's not for you. Don't know. I've made the stud really long. I can always cut a bit off. It leaves room for the fasteners, for the spring washers, and for pretty much anything I want to do. I won't need to make a new one so much as cut this one down, and I can finger tight that. In the meantime, I need to get this footboard up to where I think it goes. Now, the original had a curved up nose. It looks like maybe up 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. And so the original hung off the front of the footrest. I've got those around the wrong way. I've got one around the wrong way, wouldn't you know it? I'll change that over. The original hung off the footrest really obviously. So I need to lower the front of these to have them not quite as high on the mounting point, because then they'd be too high and the angle would be odd, if that makes any sense to you at all. So in just offering this up to the bike, I think the footboards need to sit just below the line of the motor. So if the motor's there, I want them to sit just below that. They're above the line of the gearbox and the gear changer, and you're not going to drag them on the ground. It's just not going to happen. So you're then left with trying to eyeball or work out you know, at what height does this all work. And I'm going into guess mode. I want a bit of angle on the footboards. I want them to come up, and then I can adjust the back to where I think the back needs to go. But I'm going to guess the front is around there. Somewhere there. Now, there's nothing precise about that, and maybe I'm doing this wrong. But if it is, it's my time and my steel, and I'll get over it. I'm going to pull these out, and I'm going to drill a 9/16 hole, or maybe 15 mil, I think was the size I used, to allow a little bit of movement in the bar. Bear with me while I get all that sorted out. There's been progress, I'm pleased to say. There's the stud I made. Here's a little spacer I made to go between that is 1.5 inches, the same as the lug in the frame. Super. And here's the plates. Glad you didn't watch me drilling that 15mm hole. That was I was a bit sketchy. And the 1/2 inch hole is very tight fit. So I'm thinking all of that goes together like that. And that seems pretty plausible to me. Again, ignore the fact that I've just got 200 by 50 by, I don't know, 4 or 5mm plates in there for the minute. Now, I think there's a potential for this to work this way. If I slide that in there and that through there, then I'm hoping that this will slide on here and I can cut another spacer to get it all to clamp up like it did on the rally, remember? If I can get it all to slide through. And then that'll sit like that. And the other one, it can sit on the other side. Only because I'm a weirdo and I want to see the whole thing together. Now those holes are a little bit big. Also lets me bring the footboards forward and up. And I think that's where they need to be, forward and up. I'll show you what I mean. Right, I've gone around the other side of the bike, and bear with me while I slide the other bar through. And you can get a look at what I think might work. There we go. So I'm thinking they sit something like that, gone forward a little bit rather than back like that. I think they belong forward, and then we'll cut some shape into that front bracket. Bear with me, I'll see if I can mount this up properly. That's a bit sketchy at the minute. More to think about. Another angle at this. I'm not sure why, but I feel like I want to know where the footboard sits. And that is 6 inches out, which leaves about 2.5, 3 inches from the engine case, and leaves room for the carburettor to stick out, leaves room for you to change gears, and your leg comes down. I think I'm going to cut a 150mm or 6-inch spacer to sit in there. I'll probably do the same on the other side, or measure that, and see if I can get the front to pinch up and then put a block under and establish a height so I can start playing with the back. Not sure. Leave it with me for a little bit. I like all of these things, when they fit, they fit. And when they're not in the right place, they just don't fit. There we go. That's a 6-inch spacer. Slid it into the front of that, and you can see how much space I'll have. Let's have a look at that. It'd be hard for you to tell that there's a spacer bar sitting on there. And that's just a piece of chrome tubing, and there's a spacer in the middle. I'd like to see the footboards like that, tucked in at the front, and then they'd have a space of like that into the engine cover. Now the carburettor hangs out on a couple of studs, so probably hangs out like here. And that's probably going to be okay. Let me space up the other side and then try and get a rear height where I think the rear height might be okay. And then maybe I can decide that the front's okay. Not sure still at this stage. Now, the 16 spacer on this side gives you a similar distance to the flywheel. And we do need some respite from the flywheel. So we're not too badly off, I don't think. And from memory, I want to say that I had something like a 6-inch spacing on the rally. I'm not completely sure, but something like that. And looks like I had slightly bigger because I don't have enough thread to tighten up the bar. So at 6 inches each side, I need to cut a bit of the bar off and thread a little bit more. Not the end of the world, still a little bit of work. Let me prop this back up and get a feel for it. I need to digest that a little bit and think about it. It actually sits backwards a little bit further. I was imagining rolling the front forward a bit more, but when I look at it, I'm not sure it needs it. Maybe. Might be slightly more comfortable with the front rolled forward a bit. I'm going to have to think it through. In the meantime, I might cut a few more threads on here and then I can nip these up a little bit better and get the front tight so I can see what I think about it. Bring you back in a bit, eh? Shake your hands that it's the end of the day. I pretty much had enough for it today. It's pretty hot. But here's where I'm at. It's very agricultural at this stage, and if it stays looking this bad, I'll ditch the thing. I hate them. The front, I'm not unhappy with them. I think it works. It all needs the sharp edges taken off and some shape cut to them. So they kind of look like maybe someone made them and fitted some aftermarket ones. Not sure. I don't like them at this point, but I haven't done any damage to the frame. Now the back's even worse. So that's 50 by 5mm bar, and I use the greasy finger on a piece of paper to mark out the holes. Now I still don't know what the square hole behind there does, but what I have got is a really rigid bar that will bolt in 4 places, hold the engine into the frame, and I've left about a 1.5 millimeter, 2 mil gap. I moved the engine up slightly, and I can mount the footrest just underneath the frame is what I'm going to shoot for down here, and then get rid of this bottom piece, round it off, and maybe cut a bit of shape into it. At the top, well, I need to shorten the studs I made, because I made all those another time, and then make another one of these for the other side and push on from there. I must say, I don't love them at this point. Let's hope they get better looking. I've had a chance to have a think about these brackets and these footrests overnight, and I'm not sure I've got it right. I've made a second one of them to try and fit up the footrest to see what it looks like, and I've drilled a hole in the bottom. Now, just ignore the fact that they're just chunks of flat bar at the minute. I would like to try and cut some shape into them to make them look a bit better. They still look agricultural to me. I'm still not sure I like the whole setup. I'm going to fit these up while you watch. I have already tested it because it drives me insane. And you watch, and then let me know what you think. I'm not sure. Now, they only go one way. They're not left-handed and right-handed. Either one will fit on either side. But they do need to slide up underneath the magneto mount and then go in from there. Now, this one is a tight fit. And for whatever reason, no, it's going to go in for me now. Make a liar out of me. This one goes in. So does that one, and so does that one. So, off camera, I did shorten these studs. I don't know why one of them's tight, but one of them is. And then once you knock it past the tight spot, it's okay. I'll just tuck that gear lever up there. It's a bit of a pain in the bum. A couple of the studs are just maybe a hair short, but they're not too bad. Now the other one simply goes on the other side in the same place. I'm going to duck around and put that on and tighten up some of these nuts, and then we'll get on from there. Righto, I've nipped all those up, and that's nice and rigid across there now. I'm going to try and slide the bar back through, and this a little bit of a faff, but you know, it does go through. It's not a faff today because it's gone through really smoothly. So that's kind of what it looks like. Come around the side and have a look. I don't like it. Here we are side on. I think it's a bit low at the back, but you've got to clear the bottom of the frame. So the only way to bring it up is to bring the footrest back at the front. Yeah, bring the footrest back at the front to bring the footrest up at the back. I'm going to digest it for a little bit and let it settle in my mind before I cut into it and hack away at it. I am also concerned it's only 110 mil off the height of the rim, and I reckon it's a little bit low. Now I think the 28s, it might sit a little higher, and then you've got 2.5 inches of tyre, so you're only going to be 160, 180 off the ground. I think it's a little low. It doesn't look horrible. I achieved the bottom of the motor mark, but I haven't achieved what I think is okay. Honestly, you blokes that normally comment, send me a little note and let me know what you think. I think it needs to go backwards and up, but that would dramatically alter this bracket. It would no longer be straight, it'd have to be bent and curved. I was trying to avoid that. I'm going to press on and cut some tubing and make some spaces and get this all together, and then I'll bring you back for a final wind up. Well, there we go. I've had a bit of a clean up and I don't feel quite as bad now that I've had a clean up. I've also tightened up the front bracket, and that's given a bit of rigidity to the whole piece of kit. So, you know, if I tightened up these bolts, we'd get a result. I still have to shorten that whole thing though. Anyway, that's how it looks. Very agricultural, but not the worst thing I've ever produced. Have a look at the other side. A little bit darker around here, and the big black flywheel's not helping. But you can see I've got room between the flywheel and the foot, and that kind of looks okay. And I have cut spaces for the back and done all that. I will rethread some of the footrest bar over the weekend, although it's meant to be 38 and 39 degrees for the next 3 days, so I won't be doing a lot out in the shed. Again, the mounting plate for the engine and onto the frame look really, yeah, agricultural. It might be better with just 3/8 bolts and instead of studs. Maybe I should do that. Not sure. Looking underneath, I think by the time I've finessed that whole piece of kit, I don't think you'd notice. Let me know what you think. I've just popped the seat back on for you to get a bit more of a perspective, and I've knocked the seat pole down, probably closer to where it might be. It might even still need to go a little bit lower than that, but that might give you a little bit better perspective. I'm going to have to put a new neck in those bars. That's just too small, but that's what it looks like. For mine, it sits a little bit low. I might get used to it and I might learn to live with it. But that's Flat Tank Journey for the week. Sorry I've been a bit sporadic, had a lot going on, and the next few days at 38, 39 degrees, or 100 in the old scale and 100 for you Americans, that's too hot for working in the shed, so I'll find something else to do. In the meantime, Have a good one.